Hello, everybody. Uncle Jah Kev. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. How y'all doing? What's happening? This is the Jah Kev show. I am Jah, and my partner sitting next to me is Kev, and we have a show for you all tonight. So let me lay the groundwork. But before I do that, let me tell you, first of all, we definitely appreciate you guys watching this broadcast. We definitely love the idea that you're interested in listening to what we have to say. And so we appreciate that to all those viewers. This broadcast can be seen every first and third Tuesday of the month at 6:30 Central Standard Time, and we're ready to get it. So what I want to say is good evening, everyone. And today we're going to confront a very painful truth. For nearly a month, millions of Americans, mothers, fathers, elders, and children, they were left in limbo. They were unsure of where their next meal would come from, not because of personal failure, but because of political power struggles, personal failures that turn their hunger into leverage. And so what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to speak truth to power. We're going to talk about directly to our community about what really happened. My brother's going to break it down for you. Then we're going to get into what really happened and how we can make sure that it never happens again. So we're going to take it in two parts. And the first one is how food stamp recipients, the SNAP benefit recipients, were used as pawns about political power struggle, and then what can we do as a community to make sure this never happens again. I'm gonna turn it over to the one and only brother Kev. Kev, will you talk to us about this, man?
I appreciate it, man. I think for us, in order for us to understand what we need to do, we have to understand why we need to do it.
Okay.
And a lot of people that's affected by this government shutdown that recently happened, any government shutdown, I think a lot of people don't understand what happens with the government shutdown.
Okay.
So what we have to talk about is government and politics.
Okay.
So, and this is, they go hand in hand of what was actually going on. So what happens with the government receives a funding every fiscal year. It's a budget needs to be passed and by the Congress and the House and the Senate. And you have a subcommittee. This is constitutional. Yeah, every year in October the 1st, by October the 1st, they have to pass a subcommittee appropriation.
Okay.
That they like things like that deals with the government. It's like 12 appropriations, and it's like disaster relief, defense, homeland security, things like this, transportation and housing, and all these type of things like this. So they start working on it when it starts to come. September, and they know October's coming up. So they try to reach an agreement to fund the government every year. And this is like a checks and balances thing to make sure that one party that's in control is not getting out of hand, just doing what they want to do as far as spending.
Okay.
So in order for the government to stay or to not shut down, they have to pass all 12 appropriations.
Okay.
That's why it shuts down sometimes. You have one party that's fixated on one thing or maybe a couple of things. The other party is not budging, and then they say, hey, we're not getting this appropriations done. And in this case, it was healthcare, which is very vital. Because now I'm going to bring into one more thing about 2008. We had a president that was elected, President Obama.
Okay.
2009, he took over his presidency in January. 2010, he came up with he had this grandiose idea about everyone getting health care in America, Affordable Health Care Act. He came up with his Affordable Health Care Act, which was basically saying all employers must offer health care to their employees.
Okay.
And if the employees didn't make enough money or like part-time, whatever, they were able to get subsidized by the government, which was you could get government health care if you only made so much money. The Republicans didn't they were going against everything Obama was doing anyway. So he comes up with this health care act. They like, well, who the hell is this guy? He's young, charismatic, people loving him. He won the election. So they were going against it, and it was they had forecast failures for it. Okay. They were the sky was going to fall. Doctors' offices was going to be swarmed with people. They were going to be closing down. There's going to be sick people in the street. I was hearing people say this at my job.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, we'll see. It didn't come to fruition. So what the Republicans were saying, since they thought it was going to blow up in his face, they put his name on it. He didn't put his name on it. This is where Obamacare comes from.
Okay.
They was like, okay, so when this train wreck comes, it's going to be Obamacare that we could blame.
Right.
Well, it didn't crash. None of the things that they were forecasting to happen happened, and it flourished.
Okay.
So now you had 10 million more people were able to get health care that wasn't able to get it before. So now, since when Trump won presidency, they were trying everything they can or they could do to get rid of this Obamacare, because now it has his name on it, and it's a good look on him. He's not even in office no more, and we still got Obamacare that they put on. They put his name on it. He said, hey, if y'all want to call it Obamacare, hey, I'm happy to accept it.
Right.
That's good. Y'all giving me props. So they kept going into the Supreme Court. They kept taking it, trying to get rid of it, and the Supreme Court kept shooting them down. Now Trump is and let me go back. 2021, when Biden and Harris was in office, they came up with a Congress passed an enhanced premium tax credit enrollment. So this is like something that helped out more people to get up under the Affordable Health Care Act. And it passed in Congress, and so now it doubled the enrollment, which made it even more vital and more important for Americans to have this. This is something that's, they had Obamacare's name on it. You still could go and get Obamacare. So now that Trump is back in office, they tried again earlier this year to take it to the Supreme Court to get rid of it. It didn't pass. It fell 7-2 in the voting. And they said you can't just get rid of people's health care without some kind of plan. And earlier this year, Trump said he's going to come up with a plan that's going to be, like he always say, the best ever. That's going to be better, and it's going to have his name on it. He wants his name on it. He's egotistical like that. But so what happens every fiscal year, the government and the Republicans and Democrats has to get together and come up with a budget. 60% of the Senate has to agree on these appropriations, and just a majority of the House, which is 218 votes. 60 senators must vote on each appropriation to pass. Now, what the hangup is with this enhanced premium tax credit that Biden and them brought into action, it is set to go down at the end of the year. 2025, after 2026, it's gone. The Democrats are saying we want to extend it. The Republicans, they don't want anything to do with any kind of Obamacare. They trying to eradicate it, and they are saying no. They were saying no. So this is what the shutdown was about: the healthcare in America. Are you gonna the Affordable Health Care Act is not going to be touched. It's going to still exist, but this Biden bill of the enhanced premium tax credits is what the fight is over. Okay. There's 10 million extra people that's under this that's allowed to get the affordable health care. So they shut down the government. Now it's a waiting game, like you said. It wasn't collateral damage with these people on SNAP. The government shuts down. That means they're not funding anything. And normally what happens since 1996, there has been 5 shutdowns that has lasted on the weekday. Sometimes they shut down, but it was only on the weekend, and they got everything together. Okay, let's hammer things out there, stay extra long on the weekend so that go in effect that Monday. So it's only been 5 times since 1996 that the government has actually shut down and people have been affected as far as their pay. This is the longest shutdown. Before this, it was 34 days. So the SNAP thing wasn't really affected that much, but this time it is, like you said in the opening. So now it was a hunger game. Okay, now we got people suffering. Whose name are we going to put on it? The Republicans say it's the Democrats' fault. The Democrats say it's the Republicans' fault because we're fighting for y'all health care, which is the people that will be under the Affordable Health Care Act, which is the lower income people.
Yeah, so now I definitely want to. That was a beautiful explanation, man. And I want to talk about. We said something about how the recipients of SNAP was used as pawns. Right. Now, most people know that a pawn in a chess game is basically the weakest link, so to speak. Exactly. You can sacrifice it to make another move, but in a metaphorical sense, when we say a pawn, that means somebody that wants power and has power. They use their power to get what they want. and they don't really care too much about those who they're sacrificing, because that's how power works. And basically, that's how white supremacy works. Now, I'm going to come from the standpoint tonight of, and I'll kind of sprinkle this in and out of the broadcast. What we are talking about now is nothing new as far as the pawn aspect. Ever since this country has began, we've always, as a people, been used as pawns. And I'm going to go through some of the things that have happened to us. You know, some of the same acts that have been passed over and over, some of the laws that we keep regurgitating to show that they don't care about us as a people. And before we start talking about some of the reasons that these people did this to us, I want to let you know this, Kevin. I thought about this long and hard, and I'm just going to be quite frank with you. For a people to do what they did for 43 days, I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats alike, white people, white supremacy, white domination. What I'm saying is that is the lowest thing that you can do to a person is to affect their livelihood from a not just economical standpoint, but just when it comes to the bare necessities of food that everyone needs. And we are affected more because disproportionately it affects us mostly because of the way it's set up, the way the system is planned. Right. And I think we definitely got to talk about the question of how were we used? In what way were we used as pawns, in a sense, right, so that they did what they did? And could you speak to that?
That's a great question, man. I'm like, both of us served in the military, and what came to mind, I was thinking the exact same thing. I had no idea you was going to ask me that, but I was thinking the same thing as far as the Hunger Games. You know, it's the people, and what they're doing, they're using people as pawns, the poor people as pawns, to say they're going to suffer the most, and can you bear to watch them suffer? And I think the campaigning of it is, if I can blame you for these people suffering, that's gonna, you know, the reason I'm saying that this is important is because you have the right wing, the far right, and the far left. They're far apart now. It's never been like this before. It's been like that. You have people that's you know, they're left wing, right wing, and whatnot, conservative and liberals, but it's far right and far left. So they're far apart. So it's never been to this extreme. It's getting wider and wider, the gap. But about what I was talking about with both of us was in the military. And I remember talking about training, and we trained with the M16 when I was in there, the ARs at this time. And they was talking about the AK-47s that time enemy was the Russians or the Chinese had, and that their weapon does more damage. It's a kill. Ours could wound, and we was like, well, that's not good. And they say, when you think about it, it's easy. It's harder on the troops to have somebody wounded and that they have to carry. It takes two people to carry one person. Then if he dies, they could leave him. If he's suffering, then you have to carry him, and you're gonna take up manpower just to be trying to help this person make it. And this is the mindset that I had when I was thinking about this. A lot of times what snipers would do when they're in war, sometimes they'll do a kill shot, but sometimes they'll wound somebody, and they want other people to run out to help them so that they could. And the guy there shoot him in the leg. He's screaming and hollering, somebody help me. Either you're going to sit there and listen to him whine and cry and watch him die, and that's going to affect you psychologically, and it's going, or you're going to try to be a hero and save one of your comrades and your friends or whatnot, and it's putting you in jeopardy. So this is what I'm thinking when you were saying the pounds. That's what I'm thinking they were using. That okay, man, this people go that might not even get food.
That's true.
You gonna bend? You gonna flinch? Am I gonna flinch? You gonna flinch?
And they knew. When I say they, I'm being specific. I'm talking about white people. I'm not talking about Democrats and Republicans. Okay, I'm talking about white people who basically knew that was going to create a panic. Whenever you bother someone's food, or whenever you bother someone's health, it's going to create a public panic. They knew that from the beginning, but they acted like hypocrites in the media while they were trying to act like, well, you know, this is not my fault, it's your fault. And the other party was blaming the other party, saying, well, hey, we're not going to budge until you do what you're supposed to do, and back and forth. And it created a panic. In the meanwhile, you had family members who really had to go out and do things that they normally don't do. Those legitimately who was trying to maybe borrow money or just try to make ends meet for those 43 days. And sometimes we look at that like, well, that's not big. I think is huge, and that's why when we talk about what we can do to prohibit these things from happening in the past, in the future,
Right.
I should say, that's going to be important because as a people, Kev, we got to start looking at these people have never played with us. Ever since they said we were three-fifths human beings, they used this as a political pawn. So the people in the South, the politicians, could gain more political power based on the fact that they said that we were not even human beings. And not only that, we have all kinds of laws that were passed way back in the 1800s that affects us today that we will use as political pawns. When I think about 1857, the Dred Scott case.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a man who was in his so-called master lived in the South, but then his master died and someone else purchased him and moved to the North. They moved to Missouri. They moved to Illinois. And so Dred Scott said, I'm going to sue you because in the North, there's no slavery. And so he took this to the Supreme Court and he lost Dred Scott, which was the brother, because he says, if there's no slavery in the North, then why am I still serving this person? And the Supreme Court made a decision that this man was still enslaved. He was still property of the person that purchased him when he was in the South.
Right.
That these are people, and I guess we have to be honest, these are people that don't have a heart. They don't have a soul in a sense. These are people that are cruel. These people are some of the most dastardly people that you could imagine, to be in 2025, approaching 2026, and to treat a person or a family like that when you know for a fact they're going to be affected by something that you do.
Right. So that puts us in a gregarious position, right? If you have to understand who you're dealing with and who you're relying on, and it comes to a point that you're going to have to look at the people that's in control and how they will let you go without a meal or jeopardize that. And we have to come to the conclusion that we have to start looking out for ourselves. You could still get your front, because I mean, it's more white people on food stamps than black people. It's much more white people on food stamps than it is black people. But see, the thing about that is the perception is that it's us anyway. Even amongst them, the Republicans or the conservatives, it was one of them that made a comment about a lot of people that's on food stamps, they're stealing it anyway. Like they don't deserve. Now the thing is, they know that most of them are on food stamps, but they thinking most of us are the ones that's stealing it. That's on it, that's able to work and not getting out there working. So the perception of America is that we are the ones that's lazy. Yeah. We are the ones that's fraud in the government, and it's less fraud in the food stamp in the SNAP section of the government than any other section of the government. So that's a lie. But what their perception is that they're hurting us anyway. And they're hurting themselves too, but then I'm not concerned about what they do because they have other benefits that in this country that gives them benefits. We have to start looking at what do we need to do, because like I said, we are at a point where things are so far apart that this is going to happen again. Now, the reason the shutdown, when they talking about the shutdown may happen again in January, it was because they came to an agreement that they were going to look at this enhanced premium tax credit thing again in January. That's what the conservatives said. They said, okay, we'll look at it again, just going to bring the government back up. And it's like, okay, we'll do it. They could look at it and say, we're not going to vote on it. That's what can happen. So now it may be another shutdown.
Yeah, it's true. And what you're saying is so pertinent because we already know whether it's a shutdown or not, something is going to happen. Some law is going to pass that's going to affect us disproportionately. And we're going to suffer. Like you mentioned with the illustration of being in the service and seeing someone get shot and you care for them and you see them suffering, but you have to make a decision.
Right.
We have to make a decision as a people. And sometimes we don't want to hear these kind of discussions. But again, I'm privileged to be able to sit here and talk with you about something that's crucial that a lot of people don't want to touch. So the question is, when this happens again, whether it's a shutdown or whatever, what do we do? And I know we're going to talk about some basic tips that we can give people, but we have to be able to listen carefully. I have to be able to listen to you when you say, Jah, you have to be serious about life, man. Something's about to happen or it may happen. Are you and your family prepared for this? I can't give you this willy-nilly excuse, well, Kev, it's all good in the hood. No, it's not good in the hood. We're struggling, we're suffering, and we're the ones that are always affected. And I think these types of discussions, they have to be had whether we want to hear it or not, because a lot of people don't care about survival. We're just living from day to day, but we have to have some kind of plan or some kind of survival tactical mode that we're in.
Right. And that's very important what you just said. We have to prepare ourselves for this thing to happen again. Now, not just the people that was on SNAP, because what the thing is, the money is put in there ahead of time, so it was very unlikely that they were going to actually. It may have been a little prolonged before they got their benefits, but the states handle that at a state level. But the money is put in from the federal government, and what they do is almost like when you get a paycheck, you're working, you know, ahead of you getting a paycheck from 2 weeks ago or whatnot.
Right.
So they had, but I know one case that they went in where they had cleaned the money out for the funding for those people. That they were like, okay, y'all got to release the funding, y'all can't, and that's what they were doing. They was holding the funding, and that was like a scare tactic. Because it should have been, like I said, this was the longest shutdown, and it never lasts this long any other time. But because things are so far apart, you have to understand that this is what you're dealing with in this government. So you're going to have to start looking within, and we could talk about some of the things that they can do to make sure that they're not affected in the long run like that. And
yeah, you know, I said at the outset that I was going to say some things that has to do with how we were used as political pawns in the past, because white males basically still run this country. Now, we don't want to accept that, because we want to get into this diversity and include. No. White males still run the country. Everything you listen to, white males decide. Everything that happens to us from the healthcare standpoint, white males are the ones who are dominating. That supremacy is what I was talking about. But if anyone knows history, this shouldn't really come as a surprise.
Right.
Because if you look at history, and I just give me a minute here, because I want to look at other times that we as a people, African Americans, were used as political pawns. We go back to the 1857 Dred Scott case that I touched upon, where African Americans were deemed as not citizens. That we were seen as we had no rights. You know, and in the 14th Amendment, which was in 1866, the 14th Amendment talks about it gives us citizenship. But yet we're treated still today like dogs, but yet we have on paper that we're citizenship. We have citizenship, I should say. The 15th Amendment gave African American men the right to vote. But whenever we tried to vote, whether we agree with it or not, back in the day, you would get hung. You would get lynched. Your family, your house would get burnt up. So they just put these things on paper to make us think that we're doing something, but they're using us as pawns because we haven't done what we're going to talk about later on, and that is doing some practical things to let us know that some of this can be alleviated if we take the initiative and do what we're supposed to do. Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896. You know, here's something that gave them the legal right to segregate, the separate but equal, which we know was separate and unequal. For those who know their history, you can go down to the Brown versus the Board of Education, 1954. But what happened in the Brown versus the Board of Education? What happened was we were the ones who were bused into the white neighborhoods, and we had to get a white education. We had to get a white indoctrination. We had to get a white history. We had to get to a white economics. Everything was Eurocentric from that standpoint. And then when you look at Loving versus Virginia, 1967, this was the first year, many people don't know this, but this was the first year that we were able to marry outside our so-called race. 1967, that's not that long ago. And so we have to look at all the times that we as African Americans have been told one thing and done something else. I looked up this, and this is what really made me snicker, but yet I was really pissed. Do you know that the civil rights, the word civil rights, the acts, the laws that have been passed, it's been passed. Get a load of this. The first Civil Rights Act was passed in 1866. Then the Civil Rights Act of 1875 came. Then the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Then the Civil Rights Act of 1960. Then the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Then the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Then the Civil Rights Act of 1991. Then the Voting Rights Act of 1867. Then the Voting Rights Act of 1868. Then the Voting Rights Act of 1870. Then the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Then we have again in 1982 the Voting Rights Act. And then finally in 2006 we have now an amendment of the Voting Rights Act. So again, man, we have to see what's before us, Kev. We have to see that and do something about it.
You brought up the Brown versus the Board of Education, right?
Yeah.
And you said that we were bused to get a Eurocentric education. And even if we wasn't bused, the schools that were in our community was Eurocentric. This is something that everything that you're talking about, and I spoke on that before on numerous occasions about all these civil rights acts that had to keep getting passed.
Right, right.
And I think it was like 9 of them or something
Right.
like that. But and the thing is, it was they were fighting. We're fighting the Constitution constantly because the Constitution doesn't adhere to us,
Right.
and that's why they keep passing these acts and laws. But why? If all you got to do is just say, you know what? Everybody's created equal. Everybody's equal in this country, but it's not. That's why we keep having these acts and laws that have to be passed.
Yeah.
You have the Ruby Bridges things where segregation is supposed to be, it's not separate but equal. So we supposed to be able to go to your school, but we're fighting to get into their schools, and the schools is not teaching us what we need to learn. Right. It's okay to fight to get into the schools because you need to serve me. You need to go. I'm paying taxes here, but we shouldn't be fighting. We fight for the right, but we don't have to reserve that right all the time. And that's what's been happening. And what all the things that you are talking about is things that we're not learning about.
Wow.
And we have, dropped the ball. We got comfortable. We getting fed. And that's what it is. We get government jobs. We're happy with our government jobs and things like this. But what you have to look at is what's happening in this government, because the backdrop of all this shutdown that happened was all about Obama. And people don't even realize that or bring that up. That's all about the Obamacare. That's the hang up. And that's what they're fighting about because of the racism that they have. Wow. They want to destroy anything that this person did, even though it benefited a lot of people. The SNAP benefits more than Black people. The Affordable Health Care Act benefits more than Black people. Right. But because a Black person created it and they put his name on it, they are trying to do everything to dismantle it. And they know that if they tighten the belts, we're going to be the ones that's going to be hurting the most. Wow. Because we are the ones that are disassociated with group gathering of funds and everything like that. We are the ones that don't help each other out the most.
That's true. Now, we would definitely love for you to call us, because this conversation is really it's crucial. So all we're doing is asking that you would give us a call, and the number to call is 361-405-6111. We would love to hear from you. This discussion has to continue, but please call us at that number as we continue to talk. I still want to go back to we don't realize what we're dealing with. And when I say that, I'm saying these are some of the most wicked people that you could imagine. Because when I say that, I'm not trying to just put it out there for some type of clickbait. I'm saying that because when you think of what people have done to us and continue to do to us, these are the people whose ancestors had the same mentality. See, nothing has changed. When you give Black men syphilis and you just see what's going to happen to them, in this experiment, just to see these people, some of these African Americans men, we went crazy, we went blind to see what would happen to a person who had syphilis that was untreated. All these experiments that they used on us, all the things that they've done to us. We have to look at the Jim Crow laws. These are the laws that told you that you're nothing. And so at some point in time, we can't go back to Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and we know we love our ancestors to death. But at what time will we say, okay, that was then, they did what they did to help us, now we see what they did. When are we going to take the mantle, not one person, but as a people, as a group of people, and say what you're saying, what I'm saying, okay, now that we know this beast, now that we know these people are not playing with us and never have, what are we going to do to make sure some of these basic needs get met in our community?
We keep talking about, like you brought up, leaders of the past. We're talking about the fight that they had, but we don't talk about who they were fighting. That beast is still there. That's the part that we need to recognize. Yeah. All the Black Panther Party, all these organizations, groups, individual leaders, they were all fighting a common enemy.
Yes, sir.
And that enemy still exists. It exists in people's mind, whether you want to recognize it or not. And it's not in this white supremacist racism. It has nothing. It's not bigotry or prejudices. It's a supremacist system. It's a systemic supremacist system that we have to understand that we're fighting against this. Yeah. That beast is still there. That beast is not gone. No. I don't care how people talk. I don't care what kind of job you end up getting. It's still there.
Yeah, and domination is what it's all about. Right. It's you think about Hurricane Katrina in 2005. We have example after example of those catastrophic issues that happen to us as a people, but yet we still have to come back to what are we going to do now. We can't say that, okay, we're going to just change everything tonight because of this broadcast. But at some point in time, we have to say, okay, now that we know that this may happen in January, and even if it doesn't happen in January, what's going to happen if the grocery stores, for some reason, what if these stores shut down in Texas, Walmart, HEB, all the mom and pop stores? What are we going to do other than wait for someone else to come and feed us when our babies' lives may depend on this?
Right. A lot more people was affected by this government shutdown. I know a lot of people that work for the government, and they didn't know when their funds was running out. But this is what I think it should tell you. You should open your eyes and recognize how this country is so divided, and that you are going to be a pawn in this, and it doesn't matter to them. And you have to stop spending like everything is great.
Okay,
and I'm gonna tell you what's happening. This was gonna be happening this December. Everybody's gonna be gearing up for Christmas and doing all these things like this. We can't afford that. I don't care if you think you got the money to do it. You should be putting your money away. Your money should be being directed in a whole different direction than the things that we have been comfortable doing. Even the people that have food stamps and SNAP, you will see them. A lot of them, they will buy, as much food, and they'll buy a bunch of sweets. And I know people that have it, and you'll get all this crazy stuff, because you're comfortable. Wow. It's gonna be there. It's gonna be written. And that they bank on that. Wow. And they know that if they cut it off, because we spend our money like this, and I don't care if we just have Thanksgiving. I know a bunch of people, that's what they was worried about, talking about, well, it's not going to be people having dinner for Thanksgiving. The hell with Thanksgiving. What about food for Wednesday? What about food for that Monday? Wow. But we're worried about the wrong things, and we have to stop being worried about the wrong things even when we have the resources to not. You shouldn't want to just throw away your cash. You should be putting money away for a rainy day. Yeah. You should be putting money away from shutdowns or whatever, so they can't use that against you.
Right. And if you know history, all the things that I just mentioned, all these events, if we know history and we're studying history and we're understanding that this is against us, all this is going to be to our demise if we don't take any type of proactive steps, as you're talking about, even when it comes to talking about having what is called a food reserve, where you say, well, Jah, I'm going to buy a lot of this, and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to buy a lot of that, and we're just going to make sure that it's, it won't spoil, it won't rot, and we're going to keep it. And so if something ever breaks down, if something ever happens, we can always get together and say, hey, man, I need to get this because, the stores have shut down. And see, that's wise. But like you said, a lot of us are very frivolous. We're very frivolous with our understanding of life. Life is more serious than we expect it to be because we just live from day to day, man.
And why do you think we do that? I mean, what does that tell you? What does that tell you when we do that?
Well, we're actually, now I'm going to say this here, and this may not be the answer you want, but I'm going to start off by saying this. The reason that many of us do this is because we are a part of our own demise, and we don't care enough about ourselves and our own survival to do something about it. We've been conditioned. We have the status quo that we want to uphold. We want people to think we're a certain way. We want people to think we are someone whom we are not. We want people to think that we have it all together. We don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. But yet we know that we need to do these things. So it tells me that many of our minds, not all of us, but many of our minds are beyond reach. It's beyond reach.
Yeah. What it tells me, and looking at it like this, is we have a lot of trust in the government. It's just like, I'm going to say that even arming ourselves and getting ready for anything that have any kind of conflict. And I'm not talking about just somebody breaking my house. What if they just come out and they let them, like people that be these militias and stuff, and they want to start, acting a fool, or you getting into it with people that are out there, they looking for a reason to gun you. You don't even prepare yourself. You thinking the police is going to save you. The red summers of the 1919 and all these things with these white mobs was coming into the black area claiming that something happened, and then the police was helping them.
Exactly.
They would unarm us, saying, hey, we're gonna try to keep the peace, and they unarm us, and then they'll tell them, okay, we got their weapons, y'all could go clean them up. But and this has been happening from Detroit. I mean,
keep going,
all these things. So this tells me this is us being gullible, trusting of the government, of your resources. Because to me, when it's something I don't trust, I'm going to be keeping extra on you.
You should.
I'm going to keep extra money. I'm a reserve, or I'm going to start listening to programs and doing things that's going to help me be the one to educate our own, to feed our own, like the Black Panther Party was doing when they started their programs to feed the kids in the neighborhood. We should be doing stuff like that. We look at it as like, oh, that was back then. Those type of things. You brought up all these cases. Eugenics is another. Eugenics stopped in the 1970s. And this is, if you don't know what eugenics is, look it up. This is what it's been like 180 years of this government trying to exterminate us.
Exactly.
Programs to exterminate us. Kellogg's, all these Rockefellers, they were funding these things that could exterminate us.
That's true.
To sterilize us.
Right.
To help our women be sterile when they was giving childbirth, and tell them that they had to have C-sections and things like this, or giving them some type of drug. These things were going on. It's documented, and we are blind to it. We go on with blindness, and then we, like I say, we get on these programs, and we trust.
We're comfortable in our own demise, and I hate to say that, but we're comfortable. When I say that we're comfortable, the reason why I'm saying it is because if we weren't comfortable, we would be doing the things that we're talking about. They dropped the bomb on a group of people in Philadelphia in the 1970s. Okay, they brought dope in the 1980s and just dispersed it amongst the brothers and sisters in California and different places. The Iran-Contra, which you always talk about, how that devastated us. And 1920, they dropped the bomb in Oklahoma. You know, so what I'm trying to say is, if you think that has stopped, it hasn't stopped, man.
If we ask somebody, and I asked 10 Black people, do you know about the MOVE thing in Philadelphia?
Come on, Kev.
It happened in the 70s. It happened in the 80s.
Come on,
do you know anything about the MOVE group and movement that happened? A lot of people don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Okay.
If I ask people today about Iran-Contra affair, what was going on, a lot of people not gonna know what and this is things that's pertinent that is happening to us. And if I say, you know, it's so much happening, or that has happened, that we are unaware of, or we don't care about, and that's a disturbing thing to me. Now, when we're talking about what's happening with this government, preparing yourself for whatever. One thing, I saw a documentary some years back. It's called Blackfish, and it seems like this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but actually it does. And it reminded me this when we are going to talk about this, the Hunger Games, when they captured the first killer whales, orcas, and they were putting them in the sea worlds and all these things like this. And people were ecstatic. Wow, these whales, they're doing all these tricks and stuff. And it's like, well, how were they getting them to train? How did they train these whales? And every time you go to the sea worlds now and people go and they watch the dolphins and the whales do these tricks, the thing is, the way they train them is hunger. And this is what the Blackfish story is about. The documentation of all the killer whales from generation to generation, and how they started killing trainers and stuff. But also, if you listen to it, they're talking about the method. So you notice when these whales do these flips and tricks, the first thing they do, they looking for, and it's not that that's a treat for them. Right. That's a meal. That's what the thing was. They will starve them and say, hey, do what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And if you don't do it, you're not going to eat.
Wow.
So when your hunger is one of the main things that we need to survive. And you're going to forget about everything else. Like we're talking about all this stuff that happened.
Right.
When you have to survive, when you're worried about food, you're not worrying about a movement. You're not worrying about doing things to prepare for the movement ahead or whatever, or the past. You're worried about tomorrow, what I'm going to eat.
Wow.
And this is how they are controlling us. Wow. These are the Hunger Games, because when they're controlling your food on a day-to-day basis, then they're going to have you doing any tricks that they want you to do.
That's excellent. And you know, I want to give verse 2 to that, because you always give us verse 1, but I definitely got to put verse 2 to that, Kev, because here's where I want to go back to what you said earlier about us. We're a profligate people. You say, well, what do you mean profligate? That means we spend money wastefully. You know, since we know that food is something that's a necessity to all of us, then we should try to make sure that we save, so that when hard times come, we're not always begging, borrowing, or waiting for the government or someone else to feed us. And I know we don't have much, because I know someone may write and say, well, John, we don't have much to start with, but we do have something. So I'm saying a lot of the things that we get, that we buy, that we want, these things don't really mean anything to us. We just want them because we want them, or because someone has told us if we get that, we're going to be a certain type of person, or we're going to be seen with a certain status. Whereas if food is something that we know, since this last shutdown was really cataclysmic in how they treated us, You would think that every penny that I get, I know we have to pay for certain things, but every extra penny that I get, I should try to have something to where if something like this happens again, I would be able to have a resource pool that I can go to say, you know what, now I can make sure that my family is not out crying, picketing, arguing, or just starving or borrowing or begging from people that I know I can't pay back.
Right. And I mean, I got into a big discussion on social media about Thanksgiving, and I said something about what the day was about, and then I had a lot of feedback from people that celebrated. And I didn't say anything about whether you should celebrate it or not. I'm talking about what the day was about. That was their cognitive dissonance that made them speak up. Because when you're doing something in cognition and it's a conflict, that's the dissonance. And you're going to speak about. And then I'm getting into it, but I'm like, some of these people I'm talking to, but you're supposed to be for the movement. You're supposed to be this pro-black. Then why are you celebrating? Then we go all out for these days just to have family, just to have this celebration for something that has nothing to do with us. And you're spending money and funds. And a lot of people that got their snap, I guarantee you, a lot of them went and bought all this turkeys and all this stuff and cranberry sauces and all these pies and stuff. When the reality of it is we have to inflect and reflect on what's happening and reflect on ourselves, what it is that we need to do and how it is we need to go about doing it. Wow. And like I said, to understand what we need to do, we must understand why it is that we need to do it. This is an eye opener to why it is that we need to do it. They use you as a pawn.
My mother and some of her friends, when I was a little boy, I remember they used to get these jars and they would put stuff in the jars. They call them preserves. I didn't understand what it was. But I remember when we had a crisis when I was a young boy, I don't know what the cause was, but I remember them getting bread and putting that preserve. Now I would talk about, I don't want that, sitting on the shelf. Yes, I'm not going to eat that. But when push came to shove, man, we had bread and we put the preserves on the bread and we ate them like sandwiches, and it was some of the best eating, especially when you're hungry. But it was something that they did. I don't even think that nowadays we don't teach people to cook for like 2 and 3 weeks and to preserve certain things and to make sure, because some of it won't spoil. But that's a lot of women and men should think like that, but we're so conscious of just the now. It's just the now.
I think that we get back to gardening. I think that should be a thing, a skill. That we should be teaching our kids. Many of us probably need to learn ourselves. You need to have a community garden sometime, and we have food put away. I went to a customer's house last week when I had to work, and they had a fruit tree, and they were elderly, and I looked, I was like, man, it's a whole lot of it's like tangerines, big tangerines. I'm like, man, the tree was just drooped. They didn't want them anymore. And she's like, well, you could get as many, but I'm thinking like, I wanted something like that.
Right.
If somebody else, I got tangerines, you got apples, they got pears, and somebody got vegetables and stuff, then we could change and exchange between each other. Yeah, barter between, like you said. We got to get back into that mentality so that someone else can't control us to be having us doing tricks that they want us to do. Because if you don't do those tricks, you're not going to eat.
Well, what about even not so much trying to contact these farmers that have 1 million acres, but I mean black farmers who have areas, they have land that they grow crops on. We can get corn, we can get tomatoes, we can get vegetables from them that will help us, but we don't want to touch that because that's outdated, man. We're city slickers now. We're in the big city now. Yes.
You go to your favorite fast food restaurant.
It's just terrible. And I think that many of us, we know what we're saying is really true, but it goes back to, what are we going to do about it? Someone out there that's watching this broadcast now should be saying, you know what I can do? I can do this to help if something like that should happen again for my own household.
Right.
They can give us tips. They can give us hints that you and I are not even thinking about. Right. And they can say, well, they can type on it. Since they don't call, they can type and say, have you guys thought about this? I've done this, and this is something. But this is showing that we're in a survival mode. And for some reason, as you mentioned earlier, that's the reason we've gotten accustomed and comfortable with this government thing. For some reason, we don't realize that we're at war. And just like I said in our introduction, we're at war.
If you're not putting away for a rainy day, you must don't think it's gonna rain. Right? That's right. If you're not putting away for a rainy day, then you must not think it's gonna rain.
Yeah,
and the storm is brewing always. It's always brewing. Yeah. And then it's always, we have to be able to rely on each other also. Yeah. But it's hard for me to for somebody to rely on me if I see you just splurging and doing all this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that's how most people are. If I see you going out buying Jordans and all these things like this, or if you got Snap and I see you selling it and you selling it, and that's okay. I mean, whatever you got to do, if you got to pay your bills, but I'm saying you selling it and you buying, splurging on stuff, then you getting rid of food to splurge on stuff that's not necessities. Then how am I gonna feel when you come to me saying, hey, they didn't cut us off and we not getting this card?
Hey, I'm gonna be lighthearted, y'all, but see, Kev thinks he's slick. He's talking about me on the slide because I came in here with a new Muhammad Ali jacket on, and boy, he kept looking at that jacket. So now he's taking a shot saying I shouldn't have went out and purchased that jacket because I could have used it for food, but my sister purchased it for me. But the bottom line is he's telling the truth in all seriousness. We have to get serious about our lives. We're dying from just not taking care of ourselves. We're not eating healthy. We're not exercising. We're not even saving for like you said, a rainy day. And it's always going to rain in our lives as a people. It's always have rain. So since we know all these things, we should be coming up with neighborhood chats where we can sit down and say, maybe it's not food that you and I are talking about, like with you. I think one of these days I want to just interview you about gun safety. I want to interview you. I want to ask you every question I could because I'm totally ignorant of how to actually use a firearm, what it's for, and we need to know if somebody break in my house, I'm just gonna pop them. Certain ways when women go shopping, how to get in the car. We got to have that discussion too.
We're not going because we're gonna have that class, man. You talked about this a while back. The class is formulated.
Okay.
It's
okay. I can't wait. I can't wait.
We're not even gonna have to be interviewing on it. We're gonna talk about it. We don't already know. We're gonna have a class on it. But things that we need to do to prepare for the rainy days, and it rains a lot in America on Black people. But we don't want to be preparing. So when something like this happens and you missing one paycheck, you missing two paychecks, and then it's like, oh my God, like everything is falling apart. That means you're not putting away. And some of us, we extend ourselves so far that we can't put away for an extra a paycheck and things like this. But we have to prepare. And some of the things, what's some of the things that you would think that some of the people that have food stamps should do?
Well, I think they should invest, not so much selling them to do 2 for 1, but to invest in something that has to do with gardening, something that they can buy that's going to last for a long time. They can also get with other people and sit down and talk about. We all get this EBT, we get these cards. What can we do to assure that if something like this happens again, and we hear that's going to happen again, what can we do to make sure that we're going to be okay? Because I think most people have better ideas than sometimes we give them credit for. But you have to sit down, like you and I are talking now. You have to sit down and say, hey, I'm going, and even if your family if they're not interested in that, then you can do it yourself.
Right.
Because I know a lot of us are hard-headed. We don't want to hear this. But when it rains, we're the ones that's knocking on the door saying, you got an umbrella? You got an umbrella? That they can also use their finances to buy things that are going to last.
Right.
They got to teach their children that as well, so that the kids, as they grow up, they will have an understanding of how to spend. We have not been taught how to spend other than watching something on TV or social media and running out and saying, I got to have that because my favorite basketball player is wearing it.
When I think of a phrase, survival mode, I think we as Black people, we have to go into survival mode. And I think maybe that'll be a show. And survival mode is a whole lot of different things.
Yeah.
Survival mode is education, education on how to garden, farm, whatever you want to do. Education on how to fish and hunt and things like that. Education on how to buy groceries and things like that. Education on how to put in a reserve away, money away. Right. What I would say for people that get food stamps and SNAP, stop worrying about the granted. Start buying non-perishable items that you could put away, the noodles, the pastas and things like that you could have in your cupboard and the canned goods or whatever that you could put away and say, okay, even if they cut my stuff off for a whole month, we got food. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be putting these things together. Mm-hmm. And one thing I learned from my homeboy is get a deep freezer. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to buy all this, steaks or pork. So you can buy hot dogs, chicken legs or whatever, things that's cheaper and that you could buy at hamburger meat. And you could put that in a deep freezer for months on top of months on top of months. Mm-hmm. And put that reserve away so you're going to have food to eat no matter what.
Yeah.
And your family may have food to eat no matter what. Families get together. Y'all have a deep freezer. Get y'all a deep freezer and put food in there. And every once in a while, put food away.
Mhm.
My homeboy told me, he said, man, you could keep meat in there for a year. I got a turkey. I don't do Thanksgiving stuff. I don't do Christmas, but I got a turkey that's been in the freezer for a while.
Mhm.
So any day, and it's like, you know what? I
You
got
need
to
it.
throw that in the
Yes, sir.
oven,
Yes, sir.
and that's going to last me for a
Mhm.
while. You
Mhm.
know how people after a while, Thanksgiving, they start throwing the turkey. I see the
Mhm.
turkey outside, but no, you do everything you can, and you learn how to live off of that.
Yeah.
Even if you could give some of that turkey to other people
Mhm.
that's in your family
Yeah.
that may need it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we also, Kev, we need to be humble. We really need to be humble. In other words, I remember when I was just one of the most ungrateful young men. I'm just being honest, one of the most ungrateful men to ever have existed. When we would eat certain foods, if we had the same food for maybe 2 or 3 days, I had a problem with that, and I voiced my opinion. I let it be known. For example, if we had beans, red beans, and my mother said, well, we're going to eat them again tomorrow. Oh, mama, I'm sick of that. We had it yesterday. We have to be humble, man. If we have to eat whatever we have that we have in our cupboard because of a crisis, we should be thankful that we have it, because a lot of people don't have it. Right. Instead of always griping and complaining about, no, Kev, you can have that, but I want that steak. You know what I'm saying? No, we have to be humble. And as you said, the noodles and the things that we need to get, we should have so much of that it should last us for at least a few months, because we saw this was a 43-day shutdown. Right. So we should have enough so the next time it happens, and if we don't have to use it, that's fine. And maybe somebody else may fall on hard time.
And that 43-day shutdown shouldn't have budged us if we were prepared.
No, exactly.
If we were preparing for rainy days.
Yeah.
If it's just like if you're preparing to lose your job.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I could go so many months if I lose my job, or I could pay my rent, or my rent, or my mortgage, right, or my car note. If you still got a car note, whatever, you should put money away that say, okay, I may be able to last 3 months, whatever, 6 months, whatever, because I'm gonna say this. Years back, I'm in the same company, but I moved into a bigger position where I started making more money. I've been at that position for 10, maybe 12 years. Mm-hmm. I still live off the same budget that I was on, and that's access money. That's access money. Now I may do some things, but because I didn't got to the point that I didn't got my money up so much that I could lose my job, and I'm not worried about. I mean, it's not an emergency. Right, it's not an emergency for 2 months. Right. It's not an emergency for 3 months. It's not an emergency for, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And this is how I'm preparing. And you see, if you go on my garage, people may see me work out on this, but I got stacks of water.
Yeah, I saw that. I was thinking about getting a case one day. Okay,
I wouldn't even know it was missing either. But and it's like, hey man, the water may get cut off. The water may be contaminated like it was in Flint. And then it's like, okay, I got water to drink. If anything happens, some kind of catastrophic event happens, the one thing we need to survive is food and water.
Yeah, and see what he's saying, for those of y'all who may be thinking, oh, that dude is arrogant. No, that's not arrogance. That's wisdom. See, that's what it is. That's not arrogance. That's wisdom, because you're telling the truth about your reserve, because a lot of us don't have a reserve, because we squander, and we always trying to live like the Joneses and other people, and keeping up with these people on TV, wearing this fake jewelry, like, we really have it. And it's like survival is the name of the game for the African American today. It's survival at all costs on every front, because they're coming at us in every way that you could imagine. So we got to be ready for these onslaughts that come
Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, our ancestor, wrote the ISIS paper. She called us the Black Survival Unit, the Black Family Survival Unit. She knows, and she knew, she's gone, but she knew that this is what we have been doing in this country. We have been in survival mode, and we should be in survival mode, whether we know it or not. We're being attacked on all fronts, psychologically, socially, philosophically. They're doing educationally, everything, economically, on a religious front. They got us thinking backwards in that, you cursed, or these people, or this, whatever. And she called us the Black Survival Family Unit. And the Black man need to take that type of mindset, that we're a Black Survival Family Unit. The Black woman need to take that into heart, that we're a Black Survival Family Unit. No matter how good of a job you got, you're an individual. I'm talking about us as a people. When you get that type of mindset, you're going to reserve your funds and your resources, or you're going to try to gather resources to survive.
Let me ask you this, Kel, because you ask me questions a lot, and I ask you, but I want to shoot this one at you because I might have asked you this already in another way, but I want to ask you, in 2025, with everything we know that has happened, everything that we know is going to happen, and we know that people are against us in every way they can, why do you think that we're still behind in a sense? It's not due to we don't have. So I mean, it's not so much, well, we just need to get, but those of us who have a little, why are we not prepared for things like the government shutdown?
I think that that goes into leadership positions that we have, or the leadership we look to, or the leadership we won't look to. I think we do have leadership that speaks a certain way and thinks a certain way. I think it's education.
Okay.
A lack in education. That people don't want to read about these people and why they were doing what they were doing. They're at a point that we think that we made it and we're comfortable.
Okay.
And then when you see something happen in the streets that reminds you, then people will get upset. George Floyd, this happened, or Sandra Bland, blah blah blah. Then it's like, okay, now I'm upset. Then now I'm back to normal. And these things are going to continue to happen every year, and it's going to be reminders that's going to continue to remind you of who you're dealing with, but you're not wanting to face that. You're worried about entertainment. You're worried about having fun. You're worried about flossing here and there, and you're not serious about our survival. You're not in survival mode. And I think that people have to be in survival mode. When I walk out, and I walk out to protect myself, people, I'm in survival mode. I'm thinking that anything can happen at any time, not just to me, but to somebody else, that's around me. And I'm in protection mode to what everybody, I'm seeing all the black people that's around me. I'm seeing is you can be a victim, and I am in there to protect you, just like I'm there to protect my own family. If I'm out and about, I see an elderly couple at a restaurant, and I'm there getting my food, and I walk over to them. I say, "Stay safe."
Yeah.
And they may like, what the hell was that about?
Right.
But then it puts you in your mind. You don't know you are a target. Yeah. Just because your skin that you're in, you are a target, whether you know it or not. And then people never think it'll happen to them, or it could happen to them, and it can happen to you. And I'm thinking that's my mindset about everything.
Wow. My rhetorical question to myself is, and I know we don't have a percentage, but my rhetorical question to myself is this: since we've had this crisis of 43 days, I wonder how many families have sat down after the crisis is over with and had this kind of discussion about, what am I going to do? What are we going to do just in case it happens again? I wonder, and I really wish I could know the exact amount, but I know we don't, but it may be low, but I wonder how many families sat down, husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, whomever, and said, hey, let's talk about what happened and what we can do so that this won't happen to us if it happens again. I just really wonder. Or was it blaming the government? They owe me, they wrong, and then we went on with our lives as if nothing has happened.
A Democrat, you blaming Republicans. Most of us gonna be blaming Republicans or whatever. But what I've learned is you can't rely on anyone to take care of you in this government.
Right.
We never talk about Republicans and Democrats on this show. We never talk about politics on this show, because a lot of times, for me, I think it's irrelevant. I think that I'd rather talk, because when you're talking about that, you're talking about somebody to take care of you. That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at ways that we need to take care of ourselves. Those people are going to be there. Yeah, those people are going to be there regardless.
Right.
And I don't trust you no matter what. I don't trust Biden. I don't trust Obama. No. I don't trust any individuals to take care of me. I don't trust the party to take care of me. I trust my own wits, my own desires, and my own knowledge, my ancestors, and what they were trying to tell me and teach me.
And during the shutdown, every last one of those people that's in politics that had something to do with it, they were just they were living high on the hog. This did not affect them in one iota, man.
Yeah. Even if they believe in this system, I don't believe in the system. So you could tell me you believe in the system, and that's fine. You may mean good. You may have good in your heart and everything, and you think in the system is the way that you're going to do it. But I don't believe in that system. So that's why I'm not going to believe in you. It's just like some people's, belief system or whatever. I don't believe in that. Right. So I'm not going to sit there and follow you or rely on you because you're following something else. Their religion is their system, in their system, I don't believe it. So I don't believe the system. You just gave a whole historical background of the system. If I don't believe, if I believe that they've done all that, I know they've done all that. So I don't believe in. You have to show me and show me again and show me again and show me again. And I'm still gonna believe in me no matter what.
That's true, and I didn't even do it justice. That's just something. I mean, I didn't even get into the New Deal when everybody went crazy over this New Deal that was supposed to make sure that black people were okay, but yet white people benefited more from it. See, all these different things that were rolled out, we were always being used as the VA house loans, you know, the GI Bill, you know, and how that affected black men who served for this country. Right. You know, how they use many of us in the war.
Use your benefits. Get your benefits. I'm not telling people turn their back on any type of benefits. Don't turn your back on any job. But when you get it, do something with it that's going to help you survive in the future and help our people and help. The whole purpose of me being an adult is helping my kids survive the future that they're going to face. My grandkids are going to face a certain future, and we got to prepare them, and not just prepare them individually. You got to prepare the environment for them. You got to create schools that's going to be there. They're taking HBCUs. I don't know if people are aware that they're taking over HBCUs. They're saying that that's against the Constitution for you to have an all-black establishment, and their kids are going to start going to the HBCUs. And you talk about what the government gives us all these millions of money. Well, they want that. Okay, yeah, you can give it to that school, but that school's going to open up for us to be there. And this is what's happening. We have to think in these. You're thinking about football games, basketball games, and goats and all this stuff like this, and these things, and they're taking things right from under our feet because we're not fighting for anything. I appreciate some of the people that showed up. Barbara Roy, she said, good evening. Coretta Cole, I appreciate you showing up. Sakina, she said, assalamu alaikum. Walaikum assalam, sister. Ladae Bishop, I appreciate you showing up. And JB Blackman, he said, self-reliance is the only answer. And he said that a while ago, and that's what we're talking about. This was a wake-up call for us to open your eyes, even if you're not on Snap. Bear witness to what's happening around you, to your brothers and your sisters. And what's happening to the powers that be, how they operate. And this is something we should have been doing long ago. This is another wake-up call. We can't rely on anyone. Don't get comfortable in relying on those that you can't rely on.
Self-reliance is life. You don't rely on yourself, it's death. That's simple.
All right. We appreciate everyone that showed up. Hopefully we have a better show for y'all in a couple of weeks. If y'all have any recommendations of anything you want us to talk about, you can email us at jahkevshow@gmail.com. Hit me up on my messenger and hit Jah up on Cry's Room. And please, we'll see y'all a couple of weeks from now.